From hanging from a utility pole in your car to getting caught in a prison escape hole, here are 11 people who got stuck in strange places. Number 11. Wheelchair stuck on truck. Ben Carpenter got the ride of his life when his electric wheelchair got caught in the grill of a semi-truck and he was pushed down the highway for several miles at about 50 miles per hour. Luckily, he was secured to his wheelchair by his seatbelt, but he thought the truck was going to keep going and not notice that he was attached to the front. He had started to cross the street when the light turned green and the semi started moving. Motorists called the police on their cell phones and some undercover police officers saw what was happening and immediately pulled the truck over. Both Ben and his chair were unharmed, but he was taken to the hospital as a precaution. Number 10. Car on a utility pole. Of all the places where you can get stuck with your car, a utility pole is probably the weirdest, don't you think? This freak accident, as it came to be known, even went viral with the picture of the 2002 Saturn hanging upside down 8 feet in the air. This happened in Tennessee. A 56-year-old woman was speeding, and then, in a strange twist of events, she actually managed to go up the utility pole and get stuck there. According to the police report, after hitting an iron fence, the car continued moving, and then it caught on a guide wire that was attached to the utility pole. But that's not the end of it. The car then proceeded to move forward up the guide wire, and then it landed on the utility pole some 3 feet from the top. And now listen to this. Then the car rotated around the utility pole with its front wheel getting caught in the horizontal wire. A couple of hours after the occurrence, a fire crew and a cherry picker were brought to save the driver from the hanging vehicle. Number 9. A chimney. To be trapped inside of a chimney is strange enough, but to be a jealous woman trapped in a chimney, that's not a good combination. The main protagonist of this story is Genoveva Nunez Figueroa, a 30-year-old woman from Thousand Oaks, California. Her goal was to spy on her boyfriend, actually on her ex-boyfriend whom she had met online. According to the man whose house she tried to enter, they only went out a couple of times before he broke it off. Maybe he noticed some red flags. But Genoveva, it looks like, didn't agree on anything. She decided to climb the roof of the house and go inside through the chimney. Her plans were, well, no one really knows. Maybe to iron things out with her ex? Anyway, once she was inside the chimney, to her disappointment, she realized that she'd gotten stuck. There was no other option for her, so she yelled for help. Some neighbors heard her and called the police and the fire department. In order to set her free, the crew had to use liquid soap in the process. After a couple of hours, the woman was rescued. Nevertheless, she was arrested for illegal entry. And since they met online, the moral of this story should be careful of the internet. Hopefully Genoveva will find her soulmate eventually. Number 8. Locked in the bathroom. We all like to spend time in our bathroom, whether we're taking a long bath or singing in the shower, but a French grandmother kind of overstayed her welcome in her own bathroom. Actually, she was trapped in her own bathroom for 3 whole weeks. This 69-year-old woman had some bad luck come her way, forcing her to this solitary confinement for almost 1 month. What happened is this. When she entered her bathroom, the lock on the door somehow closed. Apparently, there was no way of opening the door, and she didn't have the strength to break the door down. Poor woman. The only thing she could do was bang on the door and shout for help, but no one heard her. Turns out that later, people did say that they had heard something, but they failed to figure out it was their elderly neighbor. Thanks. The only reason the woman was able to survive for so long was that she had running water from the tap. Eventually, the neighbors realized something strange was going on and they called the police. The old woman survived, but she was in terrible condition when the police arrived. Number 7. The claw machine. A 6-year-old girl by the name of Melissa Angel Wilkerson was celebrating her birthday at a pizza place. She happened to notice one of those claw machines with toys, and she saw one that she really wanted. So she decided to do the most logical thing, climb up the toy chute and go get her toy. Why not? I mean, when kids want something, they just go after it. Melissa's parents were busy because they were organizing everything for her party, and they somehow didn't see her entering the claw machine. Then another kid noticed the birthday girl and told Melissa's parents. When her dad rushed to the machine, probably in a panic, Melissa had no idea what she'd gotten herself into and was totally fine. To Melissa, she probably felt like she'd climbed into a treasure chest. Luckily, the fire department arrived quickly and they managed to get Melissa out by opening the top lid. But it's unclear whether she approved of that. I'm sure she wanted to stay a little bit more in her toy empire. And now for number 6, but first be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on new videos. Number Number 6. Inmate stuck in a hole. If you ever plan your prison escape, be sure to think about every little detail, because if you don't, you might end up being caught while trying to escape. This is precisely what happened to Rafael Valadao, who made an attempt to escape a prison in Ceres, Brazil. Valadao is a pretty big guy, coming close to 225 pounds, and this is exactly what undermined his jailbreak. If he had been a little slimmer convict, the whole thing might have worked, but Valadao's physique wasn't on his side this time. He tried to follow in the footsteps of his fellow inmates who managed to pass through the hole, but they were considerably smaller than him and had no problem doing it. Valadao didn't have their luck. When he got stuck, the others tried to pry him out with a metal pipe to no avail. He then started to scream in pain, and that's when the guard heard him. Unfortunately for him, the plan didn't work out and he went back to his cell. Number 5. Between a wall and a post. This freak accident happened in March 2016 when Ramon Gonzalez from Argentina was riding his motorcycle. He was driving extremely fast, and when he reached a roundabout, he somehow jumped onto the sidewalk. Then he kept skidding, and since he couldn't slow down, ended up right between a wall and a post. It wasn't a pleasant sight, as the man suffered several fractures. When the firefighters came, there was a lot of work for them. Gonzalez was stuck in a very strange position, and it was very hard to get him out and actually start rescuing him without hurting him further. But the firefighters managed to pull him out from where he was, and he was then transported to a hospital for treatment, as he had suffered major fractures in both legs. When it comes to motorcycles, there's no room for fooling around. Number 4. A sewer. When a 16-year-old English girl from Dover, Kent, dropped her iPhone into a sewer, she immediately knew what she had to do. She lifted the sewer cover and went right in to get it herself. I wouldn't recommend this. To her dismay, she got stuck halfway down. Her family tried to pull her out, but they couldn't manage it, so they called the fire department. The firefighters came and rescued the teenage girl, who didn't suffer any injuries whatsoever. She only ended up pretty dirty from the sewage, but that's nothing. Her original plan was to pick the phone up with her toes. How she expected to do that remains a mystery. And when the plan backfired on her, the only option was to call the fire department. And as for her mobile phone, it apparently got broken in the fall. That's the way it goes, folks. Number 3. A washing machine. When you play hide and seek, I don't recommend choosing the washing machine. An 11-year-old girl from Utah was playing hide and seek with some cousins of hers when she came up with the ideal plan of hiding inside the washing machine. As it turned out, this wasn't such a good idea after all. She ended up getting stuck there and started yelling for help. Her cousins came to the rescue, but there wasn't much they could do. They tried buttering her up, literally, but it didn't work. They also used ice and water to little effect. When it was clear that there was no way of helping the little girl, the children called the parents, and the only thing the parents could do was to call the fire department. The firefighters came quickly, and they managed to get the girl out in about an hour and a half after she'd gotten stuck. Aside from a couple of bruises, the girl was unharmed, but she hopefully learned a valuable lesson. Don't play around with the washing machine. Number 2. Student in a sculpture. This student got stuck in a famous sculpture, but not just any sculpture, one that looks like a vagina. When the firefighters of the German town of Tübingen came to the rescue, they encountered an embarrassing but also hilarious sight. A young American student was trapped inside the artwork of Fernando de la Jara called Love Making. When he saw this sculpture, it reminded the student of a vagina, which it's supposed to, and as a joke, he decided to go inside. But as it often turns out, the joke was on him. He got stuck and couldn't get out. When the firefighters came, they realized that it wasn't possible to use any tools because that would mean damaging the artwork. So they had to use bare hands, and it took 22 firefighters to actually do it. How the firefighters managed to do this is beyond me, but anyway, kudos to them. As far as the young American student is concerned, he wasn't harmed. Hopefully, he also learned the right way to appreciate artwork. Number 1. A roller coaster. When you go for a roller coaster ride, you expect a lot of excitement, but not like this. 18 people were riding in a roller coaster in Anhui, China when the roller coaster got stuck in its track due to some strong wind, and it got stuck when people were hanging upside down. For half an hour, these people were hanging headfirst from a great height, and of course, 6 of them even felt ill. Imagine hanging upside down with all the blood rushing to your head for 30 minutes. That's terrible. What actually happened was caused by safety devices as the roller coaster was locked to the loop. When the ride started, the weather was actually nice, but suddenly that gust of strong wind hit hard and the safety devices reacted and froze the coaster. but for those 18 people hanging, it must have been terrifying, and I think most of them probably never dared to ride on a roller coaster ever again. Thanks for watching! Have you ever been stuck in an embarrassing place? Let us all know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time. Bye!